Zoo Mama. I'm here with an early look at the May season of Marvel Snap, which is right around the corner. I will also be doing a giveaway that's sponsored by my friend Glazer over at Snap Judgments Pod, so keep a lookout for that later on in this video. I can tell you how to enter. We're going to be looking at the season. Okay, it's coming up. We have the Exiles season with the season pass card Blink. We've also got the cards Nocturne, Sage, Namora, and Sasquatch coming out, and some of these cards have some extremely interesting and new abilities. So let's take a look at these cards and their spotlight caches. Knowing this is still data mined, we may see some slight changes from now to when the official season video comes out, in which case maybe cards get like +1 more power or 1 less power, just some minor tweaks. Let's start looking at these cards. So first up, we have the season pass card Blink. Now the season starts on May 7th. Blink is a 5-cost, 6-powered card with the on reveal ability to swap the last card you played with a higher cost card from your deck. Okay, so this is a bit similar to Lockjaw, but she's actually hitting the card you played before her. Lockjaw, you play in a lane, you have to play a card after him on his same lane. Blink is hitting cards on any lane as long as you played it right before. Okay, kind of the same target that like Arrow would pull, but it's only going to swap with a higher cost card in your deck, so you might actually know what card it's going to swap with, even if you have multiple cards still in your deck. So that's a bit new territory. My assumption is that if you went to swap like a 6-cost card and you don't have Death in your deck, or anything that costs more than 6, then the card just won't swap. Okay, I do think you will need a higher cost card in your deck to swap. But man, this could be very interesting. I mean, if you played a 4-drop on turn 4, you play Blink on turn 5, and you don't have any 5 or 6 cost cards in your deck besides like Doctor Doom, it's guaranteed that Blink is going to swap this 4-cost card that you played last turn with the Doctor Doom in your deck. Okay, so it could be very interesting here, where you could kind of try to have not too many big cost cards, maybe just have 1 6-cost card, 1 5-cost card or something, and you know what she's going to pull. Okay, you could also get a card like Mockingbird, who is a 5-cost card, but you can get her discounted. If you played, let's say, Squirrel Girl to discount Mockingbird to 3, you could play her on turn 4, and she's still a 5-cost card, even though you played her for only 3 energy. So you play her, and then you play Blink on turn 5, and now she swaps for a 6-cost card. It's also great with Electro. You could ramp into Blink. Electro turn 3, Blink turn 4, because you got the extra energy. And now you're swapping your Electro for maybe a 5-cost card in your deck, because your deck only has big cards. Okay, it could get lucky. You could get a 6-cost card, because there's going to be multiple cards to choose from. But by turn 4, you could have 2 5-cost cards on board and have +1 energy that Electro gave you, and have no downside from Electro's ongoing because he went into your deck. So Blink's going to be very interesting. I think she's a very fun card. Let's look at my ratings for her. So here is the Season Pass variant that you will get at level 50 of the Season Pass if you do pick it up for May. In terms of being fun, I think Blink is insanely fun. Okay, a card like Lockjaw, it's been, too good, it's been OP at times, but it creates some madness, it creates some meme moments. Blink's going to be very interesting in trying to manipulate it so you actually know what card is pulling out. It's going to create some fun moments. In terms of being flexible, yeah, she's okay. You could play her in like a Lockjaw deck. You could just play her in some random deck to cycle in big stuff, but she's a 5/6. That is a big commitment for turn 5. And you need to be okay with losing whatever you played on turn 4. I mean, if you played Miss Marvel, you don't really want her to go away with Blink. You maybe want like an on reveal card that costs 4 to then shuffle in. So she's not going to fit every deck. You do want something a bit targeted to her, to really get good value out of her. In terms of being competitive, I think she's okay. I'm kind of on the border between okay and good. Second Dinner hasn't been doing a good job of keeping season pass cards interesting and fun without making them too strong or overpowered recently. Okay, it's happened in the past, but most season pass cards aren't super good or, game changing. So she's going to be at least okay. There is RNG involved. Again, she's a 5-cost card that could be tough. You might just have multiple cards in your deck that are still more expensive. So while it's guaranteed to get something bigger, it maybe, it's just kind of like Lockjaw where you're not sure what you're getting out, right? She maybe in some games is like a more expensive Lockjaw, which isn't great. But again, I do think she fits well with Electro, so she kind of creates some new combos and synergy there. We'll see, how my thoughts of her change as we get closer to the season, but overall, I think regardless of how she actually performs, at a minimum, she's decent, and she's going to create some wild, fun moments. And next up, we've got Nocturne. Nocturne is coming out the very first week of the season in Spotlight caches alongside Kyera and Celine. Nocturne is a 3-cost, 5-powered card with the ability that you can move this once. When this moves, replace its location with a random new one. So she's really combining 2 cards here, okay? She's combining Nightcrawler and Scarlet Witch, okay? But there's an interesting little caveat there. So first of all, she has the ability of Nightcrawler that she can move once, okay? You play her, after you play her, on whichever turn you choose, you move her, okay? Just like Nightcrawler, but it's just one-time use. The second thing is she's replacing a location with a random new one. So that's like Scarlet Witch, you play her to get rid of something, you don't know what it's going to turn into. Okay, so there's definitely RNG there, but maybe it saves your butt in some cases. Now, my understanding is that she will replace her new location with a new one. Okay, the location she moves to. If you started her on the left lane, you played her left, and on turn 4, for example, you move her to the middle, she will replace the middle location with a random new one, not the location that she's leaving. Okay, that's my understanding. And this is really interesting because while you can replace a location like Scarlet Witch, you don't have to, and you can choose when. Scarlet Witch, whenever you decide to pay that 2 energy, that location is changed. Nocturne, you can hold out. Okay, you could play her on turn 3, but decide to use her location changing effect on turn 4, 5, or 6. I mean, that's very interesting. No card has that. There's no card with this delayed location change, except for Snow Guard, but she adds the cards to your hand. You then have to pay the cost to play them a different turn. So Nocturne's really interesting here. It could be kind of a downside though. I mean, if there's a location Sanctum Sanctorum, and you're like, oh sweet, I can move Nocturne there. My opponent doesn't have any cards to get into this location you can't play on. But Nocturne's going to go there and change the location to something that they probably can play on. Okay, so there's kind of a downside that she's not actually as good at securing these hard to play in locations as the other cards like Nightcrawler, Jeff, Doctor Doom, etc. Okay, because she's actually going to change it and it's probably going to be, easy to play in or pretty neutral. But I think she's very interesting. Let's get into my ratings. So while we look at the Spotlight variant for Nocturne, let's talk about how fun she is. I think she's pretty fun. Okay, again, she's doing multiple things. That's awesome. She's moving. You can choose to move her. You can choose not to move her. This might mess with your opponent, especially, if you put Limbo down. They're like, are they going to get rid of Limbo? Or are they going to let it live? It's going to be fun there. And then there's just RNG in the locations. That's going to create some wild moments, so that's fun. In terms of being flexible, yeah, you could technically put her in any deck. Just like Scarlet Witch, you could technically just put Scarlet Witch in any deck if you want something to get rid of locations. Maybe Magic is really popular or Storm is really popular. You want to mess with their locations, you can do that, and she's got a good stat line to follow up, so you don't need to synergize her in Cerebro 5 or like Surfer if you don't want to. Okay, but she might be really good in Surfer. In terms of being competitive, I think she's good. Again, she has 2 abilities. Most cards that have 2 abilities, or they can at least do 2 beneficial things in the same game, they can do multiple things, those cards end up being pretty dang good. Okay, so seeing that she can move once, although again maybe her move ability is a bit hurt by the fact that she changes the location she moves to, but she can move and she can mess with locations. That's always strong. I think she's gonna be good. I don't know if she's amazing, but I think she'll be solid, and she just has a solid stat line. She's gonna fit into Surfer. You're going to put her just into like mid-range or tempo decks. Again, she's a combination of power and utility, and I'm here for it. And man, poor Rhino. Rhino's getting like no love. They need to buff that guy something. 3-4, I don't know. Let's get into the next card. So on May 14th, we have Sage coming into Spotlights alongside Living Tribunal and Legion. And oh my goodness, look at these variants. We're going to get a little close-up on these soon. But Sage is a 4-cost, 1-powered card with the on-reveal ability to get +2 power for each different power among all other cards here. So just to clarify, this is very similar to Miss Marvel, right? Miss Marvel will add 5 power to the side locations if there's cards there with unique costs, but only unique costs. Sage is just going to give +2 for each card at her location that has a different power. Okay, so if you say have Iceman down, who's 2 power, and you have a 0 powered rock, Sage will get +4 because there's a 2 power card, a 0 power card. Now, if you had Iceman and 2 rocks, she's still just getting +4, right? Because there's a 2 power card, a 0 power card, and then the other rock doesn't get counted because 0 power is already there. Okay, but they don't have to all be unique. She's only just going to count the ones that are different. Now, she also includes your opponent's side of the board. Okay, so she's not stuck to capping out at a 4/7, kind of like how Wolfsbane maxes out at 7 power. If you've got a 2-cost card and a 1-cost card on your side of the location, not including Sage's power, and your opponent has, let's say, a 2-cost card and a 3-cost card, that's a total of 3 different powered cards, right? There's a 1, a 2, and a 3 powered card at that location, including both sides. So Sage in that case would get +6 and become a 4/7. So in theory, if your opponent had 4 cards on their lane and they're all unique powers, and you had 3 cards on your lane that were all unique powers and unique from what your opponent has, which is kind of rare and asking for a lot, but it's possible, that would be 7 cards. And so she'd become a 4/15. Okay, and so that's my understanding of how she works. I think it's very interesting. It is a bit similar to Wolfsbane. It's just, checking different things. It works with Mr. Negative and with Ravana. Ravana gained her the discount, Mr. Negative making her a 1/4. There could be some potential there. Let's look at my ratings for her, though. So in terms of being fun, I think she's good, okay? She's more interesting than Wolfsbane because it affects what you do and what your opponent does. Maybe you even want to play like a Green Goblin to give your opponent a -3 power card to help her power up. I think she actually has some fun there, and you might want to choose to, play her on turn 6 when your opponent has more cards. I mean, there's going to be some real thinking and strategy that needs to go into playing Sage. In terms of being flexible, she's okay. You definitely don't want a slow deck where you're only playing like 1 card a turn. You probably want a cheaper deck where you're slapping a bunch of different stuff down. Okay, easy to get like 1, 2, and 3 powered cards across the board. In terms of being competitive, I think she sucks. I think she's bad. I think she's easily the worst card of the month. Well, the other card next isn't so great either, but I think Sage is probably the worst because so what? I mean, again, you can't really control what your opponent's doing. They might have like a 2-cost card on their side of the board, but you already have a 2-cost card on your side, so that only counts once for +2. And are you going to really put in work for something you can only like guarantee gets to a 4/7? I mean, that's not worth it. Wolfsbane becomes a 3/7, right? Sage gets discounted by Ravana, so does Wolfsbane. You say, oh, you put her in Mr. Negative, she's a 1/4. Mr. Negative doesn't want this. Mr. Negative wants 0 powered cards, because when you flip them, Jane Foster can draw them. And Mr. Negative is doing bigger things, okay? They're trying to get a Null into Arnim Zola, or Iron Man into Arnim Zola, or, Iron Man Mystique, same thing with Ravana, Iron Man Mystique. No decks want this 4/1 that can power up, but isn't guaranteed to get much power. I mean, it's just asking too much. It's going to be too slow. Maybe Sage sees a little power buff before she's officially released, but if not, I think she's the worst card of the season, and she's just kind of doo-doo. But on the bright side, this is an absolutely amazing Spotlight Cache. Let's look at these variants. Oh my goodness. First of all, if you don't own Living Tribunal or Legion, they are amazing cards to have in your collection. So this is already a good Spotlight week. On the left here, we've got the Living Tribunal Ink Pulp variant, and Ink Pulp absolutely killed it. Incredible variant, great colors with the pink, the blue, the gold. I am absolutely loving this. And on the right is a masterpiece. This is my new favorite variant in all of Marvel Snap. It is the Flaviano Legion. Flaviano is my favorite artist in the game. Legion is like my favorite card in the game, and this artwork is just absolutely spectacular. I've been trying to stock up on Legion boosters and split him a bunch so that I can get an amazing variant split on this. It's absolutely incredible. I am very hyped for this week, even though I think Sage is a really bad card. Now, I mentioned at the start of the video that I am doing a giveaway in here, and it's time to talk about it, okay? Glazer over at Snap Judgments, one of the most generous people in the community, is doing this Gold Pass giveaway for my channel. And so there's just simple requirements to enter. You just go on this video, go into the comments, and just tell me two things. First of all, I need to know your Discord name. So if you do win the giveaway, I can message you, get your Snap player ID, give it to Glazer, and he will order you the gold pass, okay, which gives you 30 days of gold. It gives you like 50 gold a day. If you already have it, by the way, that's okay. You can buy it more and more. It just adds on 30 days. So anyone can enter, even if you already have a gold pass. So in the comments, you just need to tell me your Discord name. And if you're already in my Discord channel, great. If not, the description is in this video. And that way, join the Discord. I can message you if you win. And second thing, compliment Glazer. Tell me one nice thing about Glazer. I know a lot of you already know him. He just hit 10,000 subscribers over on YouTube. It's awesome to see. If you're not familiar with him, go over to his channel here. Okay, I got shown right here for you. Go over to his channel. Check out a couple of his videos, whether it's on competitive decks or talking about new cards, showing a bunch of different decks and ideas for them. I mean, he's got so many resources, and he does a ton of giveaways. Okay, if you don't know, he's been doing a lot of giveaways. He's got multiple giveaway videos. He does them all the time, every month with the season passes. So just tell me your Discord username and at least one nice thing about Glazer. It's easy to do, okay? There's so much to like about him. So that's how you enter. I will pick the winner on Monday, April 29th. And again, I will message you on Discord to let you know that you won and ask for your Snap player ID. Now, let's get back into the video. Coming out in spotlights on May 21st, alongside Scar and Black Knight, we have Namora. Namora is a 5-cost, 5-powered card with the on-reveal ability to give +5 power to each of your cards alone at another location. So if you hit just one card, she's 510 worth of stats. If you have the two other locations, maybe you played Namora on the left, and your middle and right location just have one card in them, she's going to give each of those cards +5, making her effectively a 515. Now that's not crazy power. This is interesting. It does seem to synergize with Namor and Orca. Those cards have the ongoing ability to gain power when they're alone at a location, but Namora's on reveal, okay? So the cards don't have to stay alone. I mean, you could have, maybe Jeff alone on the left location, play Namora, Jeff gets buffed, and then you play more cards there, or you move Jeff away. Maybe you just played Storm on turn 3, left that location alone, then you play Namora. Okay, maybe you did a solo Professor X, whatever it is, you can play cards there, and then again, you can always add stuff to their location later because Namora's on reveal. So that's pretty interesting, but overall pretty straightforward in terms of how she works and her power minimum and max potential. Let's get into my ratings for her. So in terms of being fun, I think she's okay. She's not as boring as, Orca or Namor, because again, there is some shenanigans you can do with moving cards around, right? You play her on turn 5, maybe you got a vision out early, you buff that vision, he's 13, and then you move him, or you play more cards on his location, right? There's ways to shift around the power after she gives it, which is interesting. You could even hit her with Wong. Maybe you do Storm on the left lane, turn forward, just do Wong, Namora in the middle. I mean, there's some real shenanigans she could do. In terms of being flexible, no, not flexible. Most decks don't just want one card at 2 locations by turn 5. Usually you have a couple. Maybe there's one location that's just, solo for now. But Namora is coming down on turn 5, okay? So it is kind of a specific deck. It doesn't necessarily need to be built around her, but it needs to be built with her in mind. In terms of being competitive, I think it's okay. I don't think it's horrible. A lot of people are saying she's just bad, but again, there is some potential. You could play her on turn 6. There's lockdown stuff going on with Professor X and Storm, as I mentioned. There's a bit to experiment with, okay? If she does end up just being a 515, that's not horrible. It's not amazing, right? Miss Marvel is a 414. So 515 isn't crazy, but there is some potential there. Maybe she gets some use. So I'm thinking she might be okay, but I don't think she's good. She's definitely not amazing. So the last and possibly best card of the May season, which comes to spotlights on May 28th alongside Havoc and Ravonna Renslayer, is Sasquatch. Sasquatch is a 6-cost, 10-powered card who costs 1 less for each card you played last turn. Pretty straightforward. He's this big stat stick that can be discounted. Kind of reminds you of Mockingbird. Mockingbird was pretty dang good. Okay, he can get discounted kind of like She-Hulk too, right? You just have to meet a requirement. On this case, it's actually playing cards. So this is interesting. You can even put him in a Sarah deck. Let's say you don't draw Sarah. Maybe you just play your combo on turn 5. Maybe you just play Mysterio, who adds 3 bodies to the board that count as 3 different cards. And let's say you play Hit Monkey. So you played 4 cards on turn 5 because you didn't draw your Sarah or you just wanted to play early, whatever. So on turn 6, you just played 4 cards. So Sasquatch only costs 2. He's a 2/10. And you just put 3 Mysterios on the board. That discounts Mockingbird by 3 because even the original looks like a clone until the end of the game. So Mockingbird costs 2. So you just played a 2/10 Sasquatch, a 2/9 Mockingbird, and you still got 2 energy for whatever you want to do, Shadow King, I don't know, whatever. The point is, this is just probably a good card. It's just a good stat stick, but let's get into my ratings. So while we look at his pretty sweet Spotlight variant, let's look at him being fun. No, stat stick cards, I do this every time. They're not fun, okay? I basically bag on them every month because there's been like one stat stick card every month since, January at least. I mean, December, kind of counting Blob, I guess. He's a bit more unique. In terms of being flexible, yeah, he's okay. You do need a deck where you're playing multiple things, but you really just have to play at least 2 things. If he becomes a 4/10, like that's a good stat line. You can play him anywhere that is more flexible than Crossbones or Co-Obsidian. And if you're playing 3 or more things a turn, then that's absolutely fantastic, and he's just insane power in that game, okay? In terms of being competitive, I think he's good. I don't know if he's amazing. He does get hit with Shang-Chi. He doesn't have the same flexibility as Mockingbird. It's possible locations mess him up a bit more. If you have locations that are hard to play in, you're not going to want to fill your board right away, so it's kind of hard to commit to getting his discount. He does also get countered by Mobius, of course. But again, I mentioned we've just had good stat sticks. I mean, February, we had Co-Obsidian, Cull or Corvus Glaive, arguably the best cards of February. March, we had Mockingbird, best card of March, hands down. April, which we're currently in, we have Red Hulk. We haven't seen all the cards yet, but whether Red Hulk ends up being the best card of the month or just one of the best cards, the point remains, big stats equals good in Marvel Snap. So Sasquatch, while he's pretty boring, he's just going to continue this trend of either big stat cards that you can get out for cheap, or just big stat cards that can grow to like 20 or 30 power, like Blob and Red Hulk. So the trend is pretty consistent. These cards end up being pretty good in the meta and very competitive. So safe bet is that Sasquatch is the best card of the month, whether he's good or whether he's amazing. So that wraps it up for my early look at the May 2024 season of Marvel Snap Exiles, with the main cards that I'm looking to keep an eye on being Blink, Nocturne, and Sasquatch. Again, Sasquatch, I kind of know what to expect for him, but he will just be good. Nocturne is very interesting. Whether this random location change on a good stat card proves to be useful or not could really depend if she sees like no play or sees play in just about every single deck, because doing a move and a location change is very impactful. And then Blink, if Blink can consistently pull out some big 6-cost card from your deck, consistently pull out a Doctor Doom or even Eliath or something, there's going to be some crazy stuff going on and some really strong decks that are going to be hard to counter, because she doesn't have to be in the same location of the cards she's swapping out. You play her anywhere, and that's really tough to deal with if it ends up being really strong. So let me know which of these cards you are most excited for, which one you think is just going to be the strongest, and don't forget to enter the giveaway, letting me know your Discord name and saying a very nice compliment, at least one, about Glazer, but feel free to say more. And until then, stay positive. I'll see you next time.